Hello, I'm Stuart Murray, and I'm going to read from Lanark the opening pages of the Duncan Thaw narrative, which is chapter 12, The War Begins. Duncan Thaw drew a blue line along the top of a sheet of paper and a brown line along the bottom. He drew a giant with a captured princess running along the brown line, and since he couldn't draw the princess lovely enough, he showed the giant holding a sack. The princess was in the sack. His father looked over his shoulder and said, "What's that you're drawing?" Thaw said uneasily, "A miller running to the mill with a bag of corn." "What's the blue line supposed to be?" "The sky." "Do you mean the horizon?" Thaw stared dumbly at his picture. "The horizon is the line where the sky and land seem to touch. Is it the horizon?" "It's the sky." "But the sky isn't a straight line, Duncan. It would be if you saw it sideways." Mr. Thaw got a golf ball and a table lamp and explained that the earth was like the ball and the sun like the lamp. Thaw was bored and puzzled. He said, "Do people fall off the sides?" "No, they're kept on by gravity." "What's gravity?" "Gravity is what keeps us on the earth. Without it we would fly up into the air. And then we would reach the sky." No, the sky is just the space above our heads. Without gravity we would fly up into it forever. But wouldn't we come to a thing on the other side? There is no other side, Duncan. None at all. Thaw leaned over his drawing and drew a blue crayon along the line of the sky, pressing hard. He dreamed that night of flying up through the empty air till he reached a flat blue cardboard sky. He rested against it like a balloon against a ceiling until worried by the thought of what was on the other side. Then he broke a hole and rose through more empty air till he grew afraid of floating forever. Then he came to another cardboard sky and rested there till worried by the thought of the other side, and so on. Thaw lived in the middle story of a corporation tenement. There was red sandstone in front and brick behind. The tenement backs enclosed a grassy area divided into greens by spiked railings, and each green had a midden. Gangs of midden rakers from Black Hill crossed the canal to steal from the middens. He was told that Black Hill people were Catholics with beasts in their hair. One day 2 men came to the back greens with a machine that squirted blue flame and clouds of sparks. They cut the spikes from the railings with the flame, put them into a bag and took them away to use in the war. Mrs. Gilchrist downstairs said angrily, "Now even the youngest of these Black Hill kids will be able to rake our middens." Other workmen build air raid shelters in the back greens and a very big one in the school playground. And if Thaw heard the air raid warning on the way to school, he must run to the nearest shelter. Going up to school by the steep back lane, one morning, he heard the siren wailing in the blue sky. He was almost at school, but turned and ran home to where his mother waited in the back green shelter with the neighbours. At night, dark green blinds were pulled down over the windows. Then Mr. Thaw put on an armband and a steel helmet and went into the street to search for houses showing illegal chinks of light. Someone told Mrs. Thaw that the former tenants of her flat had killed themselves by putting their heads in the oven and turning the gas on. She wrote at once to the corporation asking that her gas cooker be changed for an electric one, but as Mr. Thaw would still need food when he returned from work, she baked him a shepherd's pie, but with her lips more tightly pursed than usual. Her son always refused shepherd's pie or any other food whose appearance disgusted him. Spongy white tripe, soft penis-like sausages, stuffed sheep's hearts with their valves and little arteries. When one of these came before him, he poked it uncertainly with his fork and said, "I don't want it." "Why not?" "It looks queer." "But you haven't tasted it. Taste just a wee bit, for my sake." "No. Children in China are starving for food like that. Send it to them." After more discussion, his mother would say in a high-pitched voice, "You'll sit at this table till you eat every bit," or "Just you wait till I tell your father about this, my dear." Then he would put a piece of food in his mouth, gulp without tasting, and vomit it back onto the plate. After that, he would be shut in the back bedroom. Sometimes his mother came to the door and said, "Will you not just eat a wee bit of it, for my sake?" Then Thor, feeling cruel, shouted "No," and went to the window and looked down into the back green. He would see friends playing there, or the midden rakers, or neighbours hanging out washing, and feel so lonely and magnificent that he considered opening the window and jumping out. It was a bitter glee to imagine his corpse thudding to the ground among them. At last, with terror, he would hear his father coming clomp clomp upstairs, carrying his bicycle. Usually Thor ran to meet him. Now he heard his mother open the door, the mutter of voices and conspiracy, then footsteps coming to the bedroom and his mother whispering, "Don't hurt him too much." Mr. Thor would enter with a grim look and say, "Duncan, you've behaved badly to your mother again. She goes to the bother and expense of making a good dinner and you won't eat it. Aren't you ashamed of yourself?" Thor would hang his head. "I want you to apologise to her." "Don't know what apologise means." "Tell her you're sorry and you'll eat what you're given." Then Thor would snarl, "No, I won't," and be thrashed. During the thrashing, he screamed a lot and afterwards stamped, yelled, tore his hair and banged his head against the wall until his parents grew frightened and Mr. Thor shouted, "Stop that or I'll draw my hand off your jaw." Then Thor beat his own face with his fist, screaming, "Like this, like this, like this." It was hard to silence him without undoing the justice of the punishment. On the advice of a neighbour, they one day undressed the furiously kicking boy, filled a bath with cold water and plunged him in. The sudden chilling scald destroyed all his protest, and this treatment was used on later occasions with equal success. Shivering slightly, he would be dried with soft towels before the living room fire, then put to bed with his doll. Before sleep came, he lay stunned and emotionless while his mother tucked him in. Sometimes he considered withholding the goodnight kiss, but could never quite manage it. Goodbye.